It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here, Mary Jo Foley. Man, Microsoft has a bunch of new apps, new Office apps, and Paul is going to explain what he calls the quiet transition from the old to the new Microsoft. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 415, recorded May 27th, 2015. Windows, hello lady! Windows Weekly is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron will send you all the ingredients to cook fresh, delicious meals with simple step-by-step instructions right to your door. See what's on the menu this week and get your first 2 meals free by going to blueapron.com/twit. That's blueapron.com/twit. And by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/twit and receive a $50 Visa gift card when you get a loan. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show. I love that new music. Hey! Thank you, Carl Franklin, once again from .NET Rocks. He rocks.
He does rock.
Hey!
We should get the European version for the football fans.
Oi!
It'd be like, oi.
Oi! That's Paul Thurrott. He's from Thurrott.com. That's pretty easy to remember. Can't get much better URL than that. Did you have that before? Was like, because it's your family name?
Yeah, when we moved to Phoenix over 20 years ago, we had this domain so my family could look at pictures of of us in Phoenix and have eventually pictures of our kid and that kind of stuff.
But you've given
so the
up
archives on the site are a little weird.
I was going to say you're
looking for Microsoft reviews and stuff.
Mary Jo Foley's here. Did you have allaboutmicrosoft.com? Did you buy it when you were?
I bought it about 7 years ago when I was coming to ZDNet.
Oh, nice. So you own that as well?
I do. Yep.
Nice. So you guys, now that the Recode's been bought by Vox, you could go into your own.
We're all set.
Well, I had my own mini version of that, right?
You do, really, actually.
Yeah.
I never asked you about the business relationship. So you didn't exactly just go from Penton to a new company. You have a.
Well, I did sort of. I mean, it's a partnership, but I mean, I am also technically an employee.
But that's nice though that you have a little something.
Yeah, it's a little autonomy, and it's lets me do what I want to do. And the big changes are I don't have this ginormous company that stinks, and I don't have to write about stuff I don't care about.
Apparently, they neglected to put the non-disparagement clause in here.
Oops.
Whoops.
Actually, I just throw this since you're mentioning that. I will say, you're right. They did.
Oh, whoops. We can edit that out.
No, I listen. I appreciate the years of service. It was great.
No, good company. Good name.
Yeah, no, they're the best.
Quality.
And by the way, I recommend to one and all, please, someday go to Penton.com and try to figure out what it is. I dare you.
What do they do?
I dare you.
You know what? They're still afloat.
Okay.
There's something to be said for that, let me tell you.
Sure.
I am in Windows 10. I'm very happy. I installed it last week. I'm in the beta hoobajaboogie, whatever it is.
Yep, that's it.
10122.
Is that the Irish Parliament? No, what is that?
That looks like France. France.
It does, but I don't recognize it.
Or is it the UK? It might be Britain. You know what? That might be.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know
what. It's a little ornate to be in Dublin.
It's pretty. Anyway, we're talking. Nobody who's listening knows what we're taling about.
Exactly.
My wallpaper.
If someone listening could help us guess what this is, that'd be great.
I like my wallpaper because I have different landscapes and stuff, and Windows 10 picked that right up there, and that's nice.
That's not Berlin, is it? Is that the
Reichstag?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. That dome looks like very Berlin-esque, doesn't it?
That's what I mean. The dome part in the back looks like it might be the new...
if I had the chat room on, I would know.
What?
I haven't set it up for the Windows yet. I have to set it up. What do you use?
Set it up with the things for the things.
With a thing for the thing.
What do I use? What,
For chat.
for what?
For chat.
I just use Skype. What do you mean?
Skype. Like all good
Twitter.
Microsofties.
Like Twitter.
Twitter. That's what I use.
Oh, yes.
I love the Twitter. Meanwhile, now I've lost the notes. Sorry. Oh, good.
I want to know what that place was, though.
Oh,
No.
the chat room's shouting it right now. If I only had access to them, I guess I'll have to. Let me-
Oh, I see. You're trying to access. All right, I got you.
Yeah, because I don't have it running on Windows, so I don't.
So, okay. Where would I see this?
Go to the live chat.
They said it's Winnipeg. That can't be
Oh,
right.
jeez, really?
It can't
Not
be
even
Winnipeg.
close.
Oh, wow.
All right. That's okay. So I am ignorant of Canada.
Is it, that can't be Winnipeg. That's
could be
not.
Winnipeg.
They're joshing you when they say that. Let us talk. Let us talk about the mobility of experiences. Actually, this is the Cortana and iOS and Android story, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Not the Reichstag story.
Like the Reichstag. We were talking about this on MacBreak Weekly, and I thought very interesting. Microsoft has announced they're going to have, but this is not new. We knew this before, a Cortana app for iOS and Android.
It's official now.
Right.
Tell us about it. It's the iPhone companion for Windows 10.
Yeah.
That's the official.
First, the Cortana app is basically Cortana in app form that's going to be coming to iOS and to Android. It's not the exact same Cortana as on Windows and Windows Phone because Microsoft doesn't have access to the deeper level OS elements that it would need to do everything that it can do with Cortana on Windows. But it's going to be able to do a lot of things that Cortana can do. It won't be able to do things like you say, "Hey Cortana," and it'll automatically respond. It won't do that. And I believe, at least for now, it won't allow you to open apps. Maybe at some point it will, at least on Android. But it's the way that Microsoft is bringing Cortana across platform. And I can tell you, I bet Paul has had the same experience I have had this week since they announced this. I've been like beaten up by Windows fans on Twitter because
I
of
read a story
this.
about it.
Why?
Yeah.
Because I guess, well, for one, they're blaming the messenger, right? And they and the Windows fans see this as bad. They wanted Microsoft to keep Cortana just to Windows because they said it was a
This is like
competitive
the final
advantage.
straw.
Yeah.
And this was the final straw. I've had endless conversations with people just saying, you know what, they're doing it. I'm just reporting on it. I'm not defending it. But I do actually think it's smart of them to do.
Well, it sounds like you are
because-
defending it, Mary Jo. I think they should be complaining to you.
Yeah. Well, you know why I think it's smart.
What's your email address
Microsoft-
again, just in case anyone listening would like to see
I have one number for you as far as the defense. 3. We are the 3%. Why the heck would Microsoft keep Cortana just on Windows and Windows Phone?
Good point.
Okay. Right?
Well, wait a minute.
I mean,
Windows is not the 3%.
no, Windows is not the 3%. It's coming to Windows 10. So at some point, you would assume it'll be on a lot more than 3% of all mobile platforms. At least
It's
you would
still
hope
be
that.
closer to 30%. I mean, we're not talking 50, 75, 80%.
Right.
It's
Right.
best case scenario, 30%.
Right. And Microsoft, guys, they are now a software and services company. They are not a hardware company. They still make hardware. They're still in the hardware business, not out of it yet, maybe never will be. But their main business is the productivity and platforms company. How do you become that? You put your software and your services everywhere. That's why they're doing this.
Yep, that's right.
There it is. Sorry. Sorry,
okay,
everybody.
Well, I mean, right. So I guess in some ways, the announcement that Microsoft is going to take Cortana to Android and iOS, I mean, why would this surprise anybody? Look at what they've been doing over the past year. Every Microsoft product, large and small, has made its way to these platforms. I mean, of course, Cortana is going to be part of it. Leo probably knows more about this than we do, but if you think about how Google Now works on iOS, for example, it's probably going to be a similar experience to that, meaning you have to explicitly kind of go into the app to have it make any sense, right? Because they can't integrate with the OS at large like the native digital assistants can with whatever platform they're made for. But yeah, I mean, like Mary Jo, I've seen a lot of that. And, you can write a post like this and know you're going to get hundreds of responses from people who are not very happy. There'll be a couple of voices of reason in there. I wrote mine as kind of a joke. I have little asides about getting, making breathing space for people or letting them breathe into a bag or whatever. Because I know people right, will respond in this fashion. I mean, it's sad.
Yep.
But
Yep.
to paraphrase what Mary Jo just said, Microsoft's customers are important to them. Windows Phone customers are a tiny percentage of that. And it's more important to keep that wider customer audience supported, which requires them to put this stuff on other platforms.
Yep. Microsoft, the idea is Microsoft doesn't care these days where their customers are. Before, they cared that you were on Windows. These days, if you're on any platform and Microsoft has you for even one app or one service, they're happy. Yep.
No, but that's sensible.
It is.
It's funny because it reminds me of the old days of Apple. When Apple wasn't the dominant platform, of course, Apple had to work with other people, right? And they had to make iTunes for Windows and all of that. That's just, I mean, if you own the entire market, you don't have to kowtow. But if you're 3%, you got to make concessions. This is the way it is.
Yeah, and I don't actually... to me, this is not surprising. I mean, it's always interesting to me when Microsoft announces something. I thought it was really interesting and maybe a little bit odd that they kind of commingled this message with companion app for phones.
Right?
If you read the post,
that's probably part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
It reads like Cortana on iOS or Android is a benefit of Windows Phone or Windows 10, and it's like. Sort of.
You know why? You know why, right?
No, of course.
They were trying to soften the blow, right?
Sure.
If you read how they wrote that blog post, it was like, let's bury the lead way down.
Yep. Companion app. Oh, and Cortana.
Yeah, Cortana's on iOS.
It was just kind of tossed out at the end.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's why.
So with regard, right. So the big question, and this is ultimately the complaint you're getting, I believe, and that I'm getting, which is, so they're going to do this. I mean, why would anyone choose Windows Phone? Right. And I threw out an article this morning that is sort of my theory on that, and it has to do with the way that Windows 10 is being positioned. And it's not just Windows 10. We've talked about this on this podcast before. When Microsoft talks about Office 2016 for the PC, they very carefully position it as a product for professional content creators. In other words, this is not the mainstream way that people consume like personal computing services. That happens on mobile devices, which exist in far bigger numbers than PCs. And so Windows 10 is very much a PC operating system. And any of the devices they've talked about so far are basically PCs of some size, whether it's a Raspberry Pi, which is a tiny PC, or a giant HoloLens thing with an 82 or 84-inch screen, whatever that is, gigantic PC. So if you think about it in that context, if you go from that little tiny device to that giant device, and all of those things in the middle of a PC, I mean, essentially they're positioning Windows Phone, and that's Windows Phone with a small p, Windows for phones, Windows 10 for phones, as a PC that can also be used as a phone. It has those phone services. But it's essentially it is literally the mobile version of Windows 10. It's just Windows 10. And I think that's kind of smart because that, speaks to the core, if you put it in political terms, of the Windows user base, which are PC users. And it gives them a chance to benefit in both directions from kind of innovations that occurred first on the phone or on the PC or whatever, in whatever direction, on both platforms or on all these platforms. And, maybe this is the solution to growing Windows as a PC platform or growing the PC market in general. What's the difference? We're going to be running Windows 10 Mobile on tiny tablets. We're going to be running it on big phones, phablets. And we're going to be running it on regular phones. They're PCs, essentially.
Yeah, that's kind of the point too, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Extends the definition of a Windows PC.
I think so.
And puts Windows 10 at the center, right?
Yeah.
They want it to be, we connect to everything out in the world, but we're like the hub. I feel like that's how they are positioning it, especially with this phone companion app that they were talking, right?
Yeah, I mean, I in the sense that the PC will typically be the most complex, but also the most full-featured device that people use. It's the one they turn to when I need to write a school report and it's really important and I need to print it out, or I need to do something for work. It's important. This is not like Angry Birds or Candy Crush. It's something important. You know, they're positioning it as that productivity hub. Windows 10 is essentially that to go, that kind of thing. If productivity, it sort of fills the gap left by BlackBerry, if only thematically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not trying to make lemonade out of this. I'm really just trying to explain it. I'm not trying to express this belief that this is a good thing. And obviously when Windows Phone was introduced, it was supposed to be an iPhone killer or an iPhone direct competitor. It was literally designed to compete for the same audience that the iPhone was going for, and it never really achieved that. And of course, if you look at what they're doing today, the strategy is completely different.
It is.
Well, if you're a Windows or a Microsoft user, you've got to be used to change by now.
It's still kicking and screaming days, Leo.
Yeah.
I mean,
that might be the nature of early. No, it shouldn't be. Early adopters should love change, right? That's what that means.
No, but it's not. It's expectations. Apple and Microsoft are two companies that both acted like underdogs long after they weren't. Their users kind of suffer from the same mindset.
Right.
I think people think. You still get people, these kind of huge misunderstandings. But Microsoft can't do that because they'll be sued for antitrust.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, that world is over. There's no circumstance where
that anymore.
they really need to worry about antitrust.
That's good.
But on the flip side, Microsoft should just make it Windows only and they'll destroy the competition is equally out of date. It doesn't work that way anymore. When Microsoft beat Netscape 20 years ago, they leveraged Windows. They can leverage Windows all they want today. It's not going to beat Google and Android. Doesn't matter. It's a different world.
Yeah.
And so you have to adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
It's just hard to get over you're comfortable. You're used to the things being a certain way.
Yep. I think, because for 40 years, it was always Windows first, Windows best. And it's only been in the past year and a half that it's now Windows is one platform of many for Microsoft. And so you have a lot of unlearning to do about that old
Can I pretend I'm
positioning.
one of your email complainers? Because let me just point out that it may be one of many, but it's the last one of many, Mary Jo.
Yes.
Right? I mean, this is like the type of feedback we get,
By the way, chat room says it's the College of Fine Arts in Dresden.
Oh.
Somebody else said Liverpool, so it's one of the two. This is what I love about the chat room. As many opinions as you want.
College of Fine Arts in Dresden.
That sounds right. It did look Germanic, didn't it?
It does look like it's in Germany.
Yeah.
I've not been to Berlin, which is why I wondered about that.
I have been to Berlin, but I don't remember anything like that. But it looked like the statue at the top of the Brandenburg Gate a little bit, that Winged Victory or horse.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I'm binging it right now, and it does look similar.
I'm binging it. Oh, Mary Jo.
Somebody has
Words
to
that have
say-
never been uttered.
You are loyal.
No, I actually use Google. Sorry.
Oh, that's even
College
worse. She uses Google but calls it Bing.
I know. I'm just trying to give the underdog.
Oh.
That is okay. So
yeah.
It is according
It looks
to
like that, right?
Do you remember when the iPod came out, Steve Jobs was adamant, we will never make a Windows version of iTunes. Until everybody explained to him, but the vast majority of the universe is Windows users. And in fact, when he capitulated and made an iTunes for Windows, that quickly became the majority user. More
his decision belatedly to have an app store for the iPhone.
Right, didn't want to do that either.
A lot of people are trying to rewrite history and say, oh, no, they were always going to do that. They just, and that's actually not the case.
Right.
And so obviously in the world of 2001 to 2003, having the iPod and having iTunes on Windows is a requirement for that thing to be successful.
Yeah.
If Apple were launching those services or products today, you would never see it on Windows.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, Windows is still 1.5 billion users.
Yeah.
It's not
But
insignificant.
a lot of Apple's customers don't need to know anything about it or don't have to exist in that world. I mean, Apple doesn't even do something as basic as, well, here's a web version of iTunes, that anyone could enjoy. I think they literally don't do it out of spite because God forbid that someone on Android actually try to use it. You know, I mean, they don't have to do that anymore. You know,
Right.
so.
Let's see.
Bastards.
I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm sure they are.
So let me ask you, have you and Leo, have you used Google Now on iOS, which I believe means using the Google app?
It's an app, and it's very That's actually
Is that what it is?
the
Google
closest
app?
analogy, I think, to what I would expect to see from Microsoft. So you can shout at your iPhone, "Okay, Google, all you want." Nothing's going to happen until you launch the blue icon, the Google app.
It is okay, that's what I thought.
And then
Yeah.
then that blue icon.
And then it looks like and works like Google
Yeah, see, now it's
does.
listening, so I could say, "Okay, Google." Well, maybe not. But anyway, and then Google Now cards are here, right?
Yep.
But it's that's the
But you have to
it's a
explicitly go in.
second-class
So it's-
citizen, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
Cortana's
by
going to have the same
definition.
problem because Apple's never going to let it be the thing that happens when you hit the button. That's always going to be Siri, right?
Well, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't begrudge them that.
I begrudge them that.
A little bit.
I do. How is, I haven't really I don't have extensive experience with Cortana. How does it compare to Google Now?
Oh, listen,
or
I drove
Siri?
across the country with my dad, who was an iDevice toting guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that.
I was waiting for the
But
word.
Yeah.
we clashed a bit on this stuff, let's say, and his sophistication with the iPhone amounts to where is the closest Starbucks kind of thing.
Yeah, he's your dad. What do you expect? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that they are similar. I find Cortana to be more sophisticated and a little bit more like Google Now, which, by the way, I am really impressed by.
Is that
I
the
think
king
Google-
then? Is that the one?
What's that? Google Now?
Yeah, I guess it is. If
Yeah,
you
maybe.
put a
I
lot
mean,
of signals into Google, it certainly is. I mean, if you use Google Search and you
Yes.
Google Count. I mean,
So
I
here's-
use Google Mail,
and
so
this
it goes
ties
through my
into-
mail, and it, the Gmail man reads my mail, adds
Sure.
cards. It's great.
I bored my wife to tears the other morning talking about this kind of stuff because Google is a company or Amazon is a company which you sort of have to not respect on some level, but on the other hand, you can't live without. And so how do you mentally or morally kind of deal with the fact that you're going to use these services or whatever? I mean, you're not going to, it's like biting your nose to spite your face kind of thing.
Right.
I think that Google excels in certain areas that are important to people. One of them is maps and navigation and up-to-date traffic information and route changes when there's a better route to take, and they just blow everything else out of the water. I don't think there's it's Google Maps and there's nothing else. As far as these digital assistants go, the thing I like about Google Now, and you just kind of showed it a bit there, and it ties into this Mary Jo's next bit, is that it's proactive, that it shows you your day. Google Now, like Cortana, will bring up a screen that says, hey, by the way, you have a flight at 7 p.m. You should leave for the airport now. That kind of thing. Like they both do that. I like that kind of, it's not Siri asking a question, or I'm sorry, it's not you asking Siri a question, although they all do that, right? It's more information that might be useful to you. And those cards you were showing, we were talking about this earlier, Mary Jo and I. On my screen, it will show like the weather for Dedham. The Red Sox are playing at 9 p.m. tonight because they're in Minnesota. Here's the results from last night.
Yep.
You get this stuff that's,
But Siri does. I mean,
useful to
Cortana
you.
does that, right?
but Google has its tendrils into your life
Right.
more than Apple does.
You give it more
And
signals.
and my wife uses Google phones, or like Samsung phones. She often will she'll often come up to me and say, "Look at this thing that's on my phone."
Yeah.
And it's almost creepy because it does word association in your calendar,
Oh, yeah.
in your contacts, in your email.
It tells me
and
when
it
my
will-
bills are due because it sees.
yeah,
you know,
and it's
I mean,
like you don't know how it knows that.
right.
Sometimes
It remembers, stuff I've
Oh,
searched
it remembers
for.
everything. It's
Yeah.
a sentient robot. But
Actually,
Email
I
me.
don't get as much as I'd like. I want more. This shows me how
That's it.
long it's going to take to get home. It shows me where I parked my car.
right, so you commute, it knows that.
Yep.
Here's your little route. You should go this way today, Leo, because maybe there's construction on one of the roads you usually take. They're very good at that kind of thing.
And the other thing is they're smart because they chose this card-like interface and then duplicated it in the watch. So the wearables do the same thing.
Which I actually really like, and they work
Yeah.
the same way. The way you're flicking that out of the way is
Yeah,
the same
it's
sort
exactly
of
the same.
gesture that
Yeah.
you use on the
Yeah.
watch. So this to me is something that they get right. Microsoft does a good job. Siri is fine too, but I still think they're. First of all, it doesn't matter. I mean, whatever phone you're using, you got to use the thing that's built in. That's going to be the best.
That's right. It's going to be yeah.
No way around that. But I think of the three, I would say
actually,
Google now.
It's actually a factor in in the phones I choose, to be honest.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, so that brings us to another Microsoft product that we've gotten a few leaks on in the past week called Office Now.
What's that?
Well, it's a good question. What is it? At first, when I started looking into it, I thought maybe it was the new name of what we had called the Work Assistant before. And the Work Assistant is something that Microsoft's been building to complement Cortana that's going to help you do things like, I need the file for my next meeting, get the file, and it'll know it's in PowerPoint and it'll open it for you and get it. But now I'm starting to wonder if Office Now is almost more like Google Now, except with more of a focus on what Microsoft's strength is, right? Which is work. And so the same way you're talking about Google Now being very good with maps and traffic and things around your calendar and email, what if Office Now is that, except tied in to everything you have in Office, right? And so it knows where your documents are, and it can proactively say to you, hey, you have a meeting tomorrow with blah, blah, blah. Here's who he is. Here are the documents you're going to need for the meeting. Here's how long it's going to take you to get to the building. I wonder now if that's what Office Now is. And from the leaks, we believe it's going to come out on Windows, Windows Phone, Android, and iOS. So that
you know what these guys need to figure out, by the way, and it doesn't, any one of these should do this, is what you just said. You're having a meeting with Bob. Here are the documents you need for that meeting. Bob's wife's name is Mary. His anniversary was last week.
Yeah, that's nice.
He has, that kind of thing. He mentioned on Twitter that he was upset about something. Perhaps you could make a joke about it.
Yeah.
You can almost see where this thing turns literally into the personal assistant from Veep or something. Like it's something that's kind of plying you with information that would, in fact, be useful to you beyond on sort of a personal level.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at my phone because when I
just made that up, but.
You know what's weird? I had my Windows Phone near me, and when I just said, get me the meeting notes for my next meeting, blah, 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 I looked at my phone, and the screen came up, and it said, here are your notes for your next meeting.
That is awesome.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, okay, maybe this is going to be.
Then you said, I don't have a next meeting. What's happening here?
I don't have a next meeting, so I'm like, what meeting is that?
Isn't it funny how, on the one hand, we hate the privacy invasion,
I know,
but on the other hand, it's damn useful. See, that's why to me, I've gone all in on Google because it's like, well, as long as I'm getting some value from it, I don't mind setting them these signals.
And as long as you can turn it off.
And you can even, well, if you believe them, and I do, you can go to the dashboard, delete all this.
You like that slider that does nothing? It's off. Tracking off, wink, wink.
I think that they understand that to lie about that would be to, incur the wrath.
It's not a lie, Leo. It's a software glitch. Software is imperfect. We can all agree.
I want the ability to turn off the pieces I want off, but not all of it necessarily.
The dashboard's very, and for Google anyway, it's very granular.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
I don't know.
No, right. As much as I'd like to grandstand and say Google is evil and, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, I get it, and I understand why people use it. And, look, Microsoft boy travels cross-country with his dad. Tell you what I'm not using is Here Drive Plus. I'm sorry. I like Nokia products. I like the app. Yada yada. I'm sorry. I need to get home. I would probably still be driving around Kansas today if I used that thing. I
come on, they're better than
I use
Bing
Google.
Maps.
I just use Google Maps. It works.
Yeah. So the reason
there's an ad for Google, by the way.
There is. The reason we brought up Office Now, besides the fact that we're talking about Cortana, is today. On 9 to 5 Mac, Mark Gurman has a story about Apple's working on this thing called Proactive that looks like Google Now. It's going to go beyond what Siri can do and be more in the same vein as we're talking about Office Now and Google Now, we think. So it feels like all three of these companies are moving in lockstep, right? You had Siri, you had Cortana, now you're having the next iterations of these where you can do more with
the new hamburger menu.
No, don't say that. More hate mail. No.
Well, no, in other words, it's not so much that each of these guys is copying each other, although I think there are elements of that. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's also fair to say that when it comes to certain types of products, there are natural ways to do things, and it shouldn't be surprising that they're all solving the same problems that might all have similar features, right? The presentation of this proactive thing looks interesting to me because it looks like Google Now, kind of. You know.
And also what Office Now probably is going to be too, which it will be, hey, here's your meeting tomorrow. Here's everything you need. Here's where it is.
So how's that going to work? You say like, hey, Office, and then it pops up and...
No, it sounds like it's just like wired in, there'll be like this helper thing that when you say, I need my files, it'll know like, here's the most recent file you worked on. Because, you know, if we look at what is Cortana, right? It's Bing plus other things on top, right? There's natural language capabilities on top. There's machine learning. There are all these things that take Bing, just kind of like the underlying search, and make it more tailored and more personal. And I think that's what you have to make all these things work, right? It's not just search. It's search plus these extra things.
Yeah. Search Plus. That's a good name.
Search Plus.
Windows
Somebody
10
probably has
now with Search Plus. And Retson.
So you know it's better.
Ding. Yep.
Nothing with plus in it is ever worse than its predecessor.
No, never.
I wonder if in the internet age, consumers are no longer fooled by new and improved.
Well, I think they're still fooled.
Yeah, I don't think we're smarter.
Well, I mean, in keeping with the conversation about apps being updated every day, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of us just don't even pay attention to it anymore. Do you ever really pore over the release? I mean, we might because we're in the industry, but you know, I just put the battery back in a Samsung device, turned it on for the first time in 2 weeks, and it spent half an hour updating apps and whatever.
I know.
And I mean, my God, it's amazing how many are updated or, you know, have been updated in that time period. And each one of them, not every one of them, but a lot of them have really long release notes. You can expand the view and see what was updated.
There's lots of stuff.
I mean, who reads that stuff? I think we just get kind of, it's updated. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have mixed feelings. Remember, Microsoft gotten a lot of heat for overdoing the updates, right? That's why they moved to the monthly cycle.
Sure.
But apps are often updated daily.
I mean, almost daily, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people don't complain about it. What's the difference? I guess it's not an operating.
Actually, here's one that Microsoft people will appreciate. You know, my wife and I both use Duolingo, which is a great app.
Love it.
The hilarious thing about it is how much it differs from platform to platform. It's almost pathological.
Yeah.
And if you think, to put it in kind of a Microsoft context, every time a new version of Windows would come out, people would rail against the changes to the start menu because they were often arbitrary. It was like they put all the commands in a blender and just put them in different places every time just to keep us on our toes. And you would kind of look at where the stuff was, and sometimes it'd be little pop-up menus, and sometimes it would happen in line, and sometimes this would be here or this would be there, or they'd turn off this view and you could put it back if you wanted to, and it just seemed so arbitrary. That happened once every 3 years. Duolingo gets updated every week differently on at least two of those platforms.
I know.
And keeping up with the changes is like, sometimes I'll use it on the iPad, I get used to that, and then you load it on Android and you're like, what? What is this thing?
What the heck?
And then you look at it on Windows Phone and it's completely different again.
Yep.
You know, the rate of change is astonishing.
And we somehow tolerate it. I guess because it's behind the scenes and it doesn't.
And I
really
think also
change.
because we're consumers in this sense, right? And we're people who
business.
like change, right? Businesses.
And by
don't love
consumers,
that.
what really mean are live beta testers of
Yes,
software.
exactly.
You know, like let's see how much and people will get enraged by this change. Oh, not too much. Let's keep going in this direction.
But there's a certain group, and I'll wager our viewers and listeners are preponderantly in that group who celebrate it, and I can't wait. You know, what are people bitching about? The fact that the denim didn't come, right? We want the updates.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's new. It's shiny.
Yeah,
it's
and you'll have
improved.
and right. Denim's a great example. Someone will have like a Lumia 1020, and they know they're not getting the camera updates. They don't like it, but they understand it. But man, are they burned when they don't have that software update? It's like, well, what are you? What are you looking forward to here exactly? What do you think is going to happen?
Magic.
You know,
my life finally will be okay.
Yeah.
Right. But then you have, on the other hand, business users who say, You know what I want in Windows 10? I want the ability to lock everything down so I never get any new features once Windows 10 comes out.
By the way, that's why I love business computing.
See, that's why you love it, and you wish
The
you could
world
cover
that
things like
invented
to do.
super gluing USB ports.
Yep.
I mean,
You might wish you had these days.
But you know, if you have mission critical apps, you're running a mission critical system. I get why
I do too.
this is happening.
I do too.
I think a mission critical system would be more resilient to change, but what do I know?
But no.
I don't know.
Plus, like banks. Okay, take a bank. How many thousands of in-house apps do they have? And if they get a certain update and it breaks everything inside, and you've got it on, 100,000 users systems.
I mean,
Not fun.
the systems that banks are using are not
New.
modern
They're
apps.
old.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah. You're also talking about an industry, which I worked in banking for several years. That,
Oh, did you? Oh.
Yeah, used to string public Wi-Fi hotspots between buildings so they could communicate with a branch across the street after an acquisition, and just would horrify you if you knew some of the stuff. That these guys.
Did you want to talk about Proactive, this rumored Apple?
Well,
Is that what you were
We
talking
mentioned
about?
it just kind of in passing. This is a rumor
Oh, this
that
is the
maybe
Office. When you talk about
announced.
Office Now, this was the.
This is
okay.
Apple's
Yeah.
equivalent of
Yeah, yeah,
Office Now.
Yeah.
Right.
we're trying to throw in Apple content every episode, Leo. I know we got to keep people.
I've been missing that.
Just,
This might be a
just,
WWDC announcement, they say. So they say.
yeah. Would make sense.
Oh, everything
Apple
makes
said.
sense. Apple could do anything. They made a watch. They sell 30,000 of these a week for no apparent reason, except that it's an Apple Watch.
Right.
No one needs this.
That's the problem with the LG watch. Doesn't have an Apple logo on it.
I love the LG Urbane,
Doesn't matter, Leo.
but my wife tells me it's
Yeah.
fugly, which is a word I've heard a lot lately. And so I'm wearing the Apple Watch. Somehow,
It is
there is a
pretty.
reality
It's a
distortion
pretty
field.
watch.
I was doing MacBreak Weekly yesterday, and they somehow convinced me to buy another one. And then, fortunately, I came to my senses after
To
the
buy
show,
another one.
and I canceled.
For what?
Thank
What-
God
for
they
what?
have a backlog.
Right.
Because it was
Right.
so pretty. It was the black one with the black link bracelet. It was so pretty. So pretty. I really wanted it. It's the reality distortion field. I don't know how they do it.
Something in the water out that way.
That way,
California.
No, they make,
every way.
Apple's hardware is gorgeous. It really is. I think the only issue I have with the Apple Watch is how unnecessary it is. I mean,
All right, I was gonna say, it
everyone
doesn't
needs a
do anything.
smartphone. Tablets have great utility. Computers have great utility. We all want to watch TV in the living room, that kind of stuff. Well, not Mary Jo, because, notepad.
She
But-
has no living room.
Most people.
I have no living room and no TV.
Apple Watch is like, we gave up on jewelry years ago. I mean, we're not really.
No, it's so strange.
I need something that makes answering a text message slightly easier. I really don't.
It doesn't make it easier. I just want to say you still have to. It's fiddly.
Slightly different. Sorry.
It's not easier because you have to go talk hello. I mean, it's not easy. It's more
And
work.
I also think this thing's a big beta test. We kind of mentioned in
for
passing
sure.
this notion that Google now and the watch have the same gestures and work the same way with cards and have a
Right.
similar UI. And I think it's attractive, but I think it also works well. I think the Apple Watch UI, and I said to be completely ignorant. I don't have one on hand yet or whatever, but based on what I see, it's a completely new UI.
And it's weird.
It's weird. It's different. It takes some training, and I wouldn't be surprised to discover over time that they maybe make that a little more familiar.
Well, there's a clock. Everybody understands that. Whoops. Mashable is live. Oh, crap. I put Periscope on here. Now I'm getting Periscope alerts every 5 seconds from. But watch this.
I
You
can't
tap.
think of anything more useful.
I know. You tap that. That's a UI.
Yeah,
What the hell?
it looks like a fungus is growing inside the software.
We're talking about the icon cloud that is, if you tap the crown that you get, and you can zoom
Yeah.
out on it,
Nice.
which is, that's really handy. Give me the overview.
Kaleidoscope. It's pretty.
It's pretty. I know people.
What does
who
your
have-
app? What does your app layout say about you, Leo?
I know people who have arranged their app layout by color. That's how.
God.
And then you can zoom in, but
in
it
the
turns,
Middle Ages, those people would have been hung as witches.
I don't think this is a good UI. I'm sorry. I just.
No, I don't either. And I think that's the point. In other words, this seems experimental to me. And honestly, that's a little weird for Apple. They usually seem to kind of nail it from a user experience standpoint. I'll see for myself at some point, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
This is my favorite, the calculator. Now that's a useful. Hey.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey.
Sure.
You
have to calculate the tip and then tell the guy, I can't afford a tip because I bought Apple
a watch. Your tip is $0.
Zero. In fact, you owe me $17.
Anyway, I'm wearing it. It worked. Let's take a break. Come back. We're going to talk more about Microsoft's quiet transition from the old to the new. I don't know what that means.
Well, it's not that quiet because of Mary Jo, but
she's loud, telling everybody about it. It's a leak, and more Office product, more Microsoft Office, more Microsoft Office,
Microsoft Office
productivity apps. One clip. I didn't sleep much last night. One clip and revolve.
Still waiting for Office Thud to show up.
Yes, I like that one. We should trademark that now.
Office Thud. You've been thudded.
You've got thud. Our show today brought to you by your dinner tonight by Blue Apron. We love this idea. We all look. I like to cook. I have a feeling. I know Mary Jo likes to cook. I think even somebody like Paul Thurrott likes to cook once in a while. But the problem is we're busy people. We can't sit. We're in our jammies. We don't want to go shopping, but we would like to make dinner. That's where Blue Apron comes in. They will send you everything you need to make an amazing dinner for two or dinner for your entire family for less than $10 a meal. Delicious ingredients. Everything's fresh, including the meat, the fish, the poultry, but it comes in their beautiful refrigerated boxes. And you get the recipe card. Once you cook it, you feel like I'm a master chef. It is incredible. They work around your schedule and dietary preferences, and they source only the best seasonal ingredients. That's why the menu is different all the time. For incredible meals, curry spiced chicken thighs and stir-fried noodles. Does that sound good? I want you to go to blueapron.com. So you guys got because I wanted to make sure you got Blue Apron boxes. You got your boxes. And what'd you make, Paul?
So we had, it was 3 meals, and one of them was hake, which is a white fish with rice, like it wasn't rice, like rice, but like rice flakes, I guess, on top, and vegetables, bok choy, and like
sounds good.
Great sauce. One of them was sort of a meat and potatoes kind of thing, like steak tips with fingerling potatoes. And the other one was really interesting, and it was I'm going to get this wrong, but it was a ground turkey. They were like patties of ground turkey with a wheat-based kind of, I don't know what to call it, pebbly kind of, like couscous kind of thing, but based on wheat. I forget the name of it.
Oh, bulgur, maybe.
That was it. Bulgur.
Yeah, Mary Jo and I know about bulgur.
I do.
Okay, so this was not familiar to me.
I love bulgur, yeah.
Yes, and so the thing that struck me about this stuff across the board was, first of all, the quality of the ingredients, which was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
The variety, which is amazing. The fact that, especially with the turkey one, it's something we would not have sought out or made on our own, and we liked being challenged just by the
food,
Yeah.
These are things you probably wouldn't make just off the top of your head.
Most of them. That picture you just showed is really indicative of the quality of the vegetables.
This is what comes in the box, right?
It's amazing. And you look at that and you think, yeah, right.
Every
it's going to be like this
perfect.
flash frozen stuff.
No,
this is really high quality stuff. And my wife, who now is is a foodie and writes about nutrition for a living, was very cynical about this and was really ready to kind of rip it, apart.
Yeah.
And actually came out and said, we're not going to do this right now, because we have awesome, fresh, local food in the summer. But when it's winter and we're tired of yet another root vegetable and yet another roasted whatever, let's do this, because the quality and variety of the food is amazing.
And you see this is the recipe card. It's a coated stock, so you keep it. What did you make, Mary Jo?
Yep, I made. So I got the vegetarian box.
Oh, they have one. That's nice. I was worried about that. Good. Pescatarian or vegetarian or?
I got vegetarian.
Okay.
And I made a polenta with mushroom dish that was really nice. I made a vegetarian bibimbap. You know, the Korean rice bowl.
No, I don't. But
Nope, but go ahead.
It's a rice. It's like a spicy rice underneath, and then you have all these different vegetables that you cook separately, and you put a fried egg on top.
You're making me so hungry.
They even gave you the eggs. Like the eggs came in the box. Yeah.
You get parsley, like a sprig of parsley. You get everything.
Even sesame oil and soy sauce in little bottles. Like
And that's the thing that's neat about it. You get exactly what you need for that recipe.
Right. Yeah, that's what I really like.
So imagine if you said to yourself, I'm going to make these 3 recipes. I'm going to do these myself. You would have to buy a giant bottle of each of those things that you would never use again.
Exactly.
Or would have to force yourself to use and stuff, and I think that's cool.
It's exactly the right amount of stuff, which is great because especially when you live by yourself, when I buy like a head of kale,
you never use it.
I have so much kale, right?
Yeah.
We all have that problem, Mary Jo. I can't tell you how much.
There's never a situation where you don't have too much kale.
We always have that issue, like using it up before it spoils.
Drowning in kale.
This was just like I had some Swiss chard in the box, and they were like 4 leaves. They were perfect.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Funny? I know. I was like, okay.
I've never had so little, but at the same time, it's exactly what you need for that recipe.
I know.
Look, we could go on and on. Will you try it for us? BlueApron.com/twit. This was unsolicited.
It was great.
We tell our hosts you don't have to chime in on ads. This is not. But I'm so glad you guys liked it because we love it. It's really great.
No, I wanted to mention this. I mean, in fact, I'll probably write an article about it.
Oh my God!
No, I occasionally write. We took pictures of all the stuff. It's really kind of amazing.
That's so neat.
It's kind of a like better living through technology kind of thing.
Make us sway.
Blue Apron sway.
Yay. Our worlds collide. BlueApron.com/twit. Your first 2 meals are free. Try it today. You see, I wasn't making it up. Moving right along, ladies and gentlemen. The old to the new. This is a leak Mary Jo discovered.
Not like a vegetable leak.
No.
Not those leaks.
Snooping around the campus. You gave us a great tip, by the way, for the screensavers, which we used last week.
Oh, God. You did use that one?
Yeah, I loved it. On how you get your info.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I did a little tip about how to try to find out about a Microsoft code name. Right. Because a lot of times we get tips, like someone will say, oh, the code name of this is blah. But you need to try to find, is it really or is this person trying to trick me? And the way you go about it, there are a lot of little tips and tricks.
Do you also feel like you have to protect your sources? Like,
yes.
Yeah. Because Steve Jobs supposedly would do this. He would tell people different things and wait to see what got leaked and fire the person who leaked.
It happens.
He was such a great guy, wasn't he?
It happens at Microsoft, too.
Oh, I'm sure every company.
Great.
There was a rumor, and I never confirmed this, that Apple, when they hired somebody new that they were unsure of, would assign them to a phony project for like 6 months and wait to see if anything leaked out about it.
Oh, wow.
Before they trusted them. And you know what? Knowing Steve Jobs, that wouldn't be impossible. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Haven't heard that at Microsoft.
No, that's going a little too far. So, what is this leak?
So we should first give credit where it's due. There's this guy who none of us, I don't think, know who he is. His Twitter handle is H0X0D. He goes by the Walking Cat. And he is some genius about finding Microsoft stuff. He goes into files and looks for names, and he pastes stuff into Pastebin and just goes nuts finding stuff. And then he'll say, Mary Jo, I found this. See if you can figure out what it is.
We both follow him for a reason.
We all follow him for a reason. Whoever this guy is, none of us know who he is.
We assume it's a him. I don't know why we said him.
I think it's a him. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So he found some references to a couple new Microsoft apps. Remember we were talking last show about Flow, which we had found out was a lightweight email and chat application. He was one of the people who helped unearth that. But now there are more. He's found more. And one of them that he found was OneClip. OneClip is like a web clipboard that you can use across all your devices, Windows, iOS, Android. And so if you have something that you wanted to bring with you and use it on another device, like say you had not a password necessarily, because you probably wouldn't want to do that, but like say you had a sentence, for me, like a sentence I wanted to paste onto an email on another device, I would paste it into this clipboard and be able to use it across my devices. So this is a real Microsoft product that they're building. We found out that it's being built by the Microsoft Garage, which is their incubator that they have on campus that does experimental apps. So that one's out there. And I think he even pasted some code so that people could download it and try it, even though it's not available yet officially. Another one that he found was called Revolve. And we had heard about Revolve before. That is another Microsoft Garage app. But he found that there's going to be a Windows Phone version, not just an iOS version of this. Revolve is this kind of app that lets you know about contacts of yours before you're going to meet with them. So it gives you details about people who might be in your next meeting. Again, this is a Garage app, so it's experimental, something that's meant to kind of be a mobile-first type app across platforms.
But that's kind of like that Cortana feature you're talking about.
Yeah, in a way, right? Yeah. Yep.
Your next meeting is, and here's what you should know.
And here are the people you're going to meet with, and here's something about them so that you don't go in all unprepared.
Don't you feel like this is a Steve Ballmer feature?
This sounds like that, what's that that Dr. Seuss book, oh, what a great success you'll be, or whatever
the places you'll go.
Yeah, the places you'll see,
Yeah.
That's they should style it like that. It should look like a Dr. Seuss thing. It'd be so awesome. Oh, the places you'll go. Today you'll be going to lunch with Bob, and then tonight.
Look up my blog post because it has kind of that kind of an image too. We've got a screen.
Does it really?
Welcome to Revolve.
Great.
There's a guy in the center of the circle, and then there are all these little things around, which are like calendar and contact information. So you can find out all about this guy you're about to have this meeting with. It tells you, it kind of combines your calendars and your contact information together.
It really does, actually.
So those two apps are apps in process. Then there are even more. There's this app I heard about from another contact of mine, not Walking Cat, but someone else called Highlander. That's the real code name. And Microsoft's had other things codenamed Highlander before.
What's the Highlander slogan, Paul? You must know that.
There can be only one.
That's what I thought.
Right. So obviously there's more than just one since there are multiple Highlanders.
Oh, this is cute. Revolve looks just like the Apple Watch. Great.
That's great.
Not quite that bad, is it?
People are circles, Leo.
You tell me. So let me show you the interface I'm thinking about on the Microsoft Watch that I think it looks just like. Whoops. When you tap
the Apple Watch, you mean?
I mean the Apple Watch. When you tap this, you get your circle of people.
It looks
similar.
What similar is maybe not strong enough of a word.
Well, anyway, I'm sure they were thinking of this long before Apple ever did.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, the places you'll go.
Yeah, Skype uses a lot of
starting
circles.
with your meeting with Bob at 10.
Like if you look at
this
Skype,
is a great idea.
No, Skype and Skype for Business now are changing everything to be in circles too. So
really?
Microsoft's going circles. Yeah.
Huh.
Not just Skype, it's all across Microsoft. This is their new thing.
A circle really is just a form of rounded rectangle.
That's true.
Like extremely
Apple should
rounded.
Sue them.
Yes.
It's half of a hamburger.
In fact, it's a
hamburger
perfectly
on
rounded
both sides.
rectangle.
Yeah, it's a completely rounded rect.
Completely, it's the natural evolution.
Yes.
Of rounded rectangle.
Okay, back to Highlander, guys.
Sorry. Yes. Please.
Actually spit there. Thank you for keeping us in track.
Okay, Highlander is kind of interesting.
That's good.
Come on. A lightweight project management app. So, Microsoft already has a thing called Project, which is a fully featured project management app. This is meant more for everyday people, more like a task manager / project management thing. Keeps track of your to-dos and the progress you're making on different tasks. This is an app Microsoft's building at least for iOS and probably across platform. I've even got a couple people who say they've seen it. And one guy says it's being used inside Microsoft by people with iPhones. I don't know. That's another one. Yet another example of Microsoft building all this new category of mobile-first productivity apps.
On iOS.
On iOS. And then there may be one more. I got kind of conflicting tips on this one. It may be called Flip, or it may not be called Flip.
Flip? Oh, Flip. Okay.
Flip, F-L-I-P.
Flip, yeah.
And this sounds like a lightweight document collaboration kind of app that may include what's in Flow. So some of that chat kind of functionality, but also specific to documents so that if you're collaborating with someone on a document, you can work together in a lightweight way across, again, iOS, Android, and Windows. I don't know where that one is at, if that's actually being used or still in development or just under consideration. But all of these things are examples of, Microsoft doing these new kinds of productivity apps, just kind of throwing things out there, I think, seeing what sticks, seeing how it's going to take off on different platforms. And if it does, maybe making it part of their Office suite of offerings someday, like they did with Sway, right? They threw Sway out there on iOS. They did a web version. And now they're rolling it out to Office 365 because people like it.
Oh, they are? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good.
Yep.
When's that happen?
So I think that you're going to see that happen more and more. People will start, they'll throw that out there, see how the reception of these different apps is. And if it is well received, turn it into something more as part of their whole stable of apps.
Right. And that's happening right now, by the way. The
Yep.
Oh, good.
Sway on Office 365.
And it'll be
I think it's-
desktop
Yeah.
Sway. That's great.
Yep.
Yay.
Yep. But still no Windows Phone Sway yet. Half a
It's
year.
about mobility of experiences, Mary Jo. Huh?
Yes.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Anybody?
So what was your quiet transition realization, Mr. Thurrott?
Good question.
I'm curious.
That Microsoft moving its traditional Office productivity solutions to mobile platforms seems like a big deal, but actually it's fairly obvious. Why do bank robbers rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why would Microsoft put Office apps on iOS and Android? That's where users are. But that's old school. That's the old way of doing things. I mean, those apps all came up out of a world where we kind of went to a place, sat in front of a computer, it had a keyboard and a mouse and a screen, and we did productivity work. What's the new productivity? It's these smaller mobile apps, and that the couple of apps that we knew about at the time, the original app, whatever it was that had leaked the week before, I said was the tip of the iceberg, that we're going to see tons of these little apps, mostly on iOS and Android. And that's what we're talking about here. That all the things that that this person has leaked and you've written about is exactly what I predicted a week before it happened.
And
That these
what's worth
things are the future.
They are. And what's worth pointing out, because people bring this up every time. These apps that we're talking about, we think they're all free. So everybody says, okay, so what is Microsoft getting out of putting these apps on iOS and Android, right? Like if Revolve is free on iOS, what does
Make it up
Microsoft
in
benefit?
volume.
Yep.
Thank you.
And they
for
get a
stealing my
hook
joke.
into you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They get hooks
They
into
hook
you,
you.
right? Like,
Yeah.
Like you're somebody who's like, oh, Microsoft, all their apps are terrible, right? And then you try one. All you need is just one little hook, and then you're like, oh, that Revolve app, that was okay.
Hey, listen, if you use Android, grab the next lock screen. It's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
They make a grab. I mean, I don't want to ruin my pick for later, but they have some amazing stuff on other platforms.
This
If
is
you're-
not old either. I mean, not new either. They did it with a PhotoSynth, right?
Yeah,
That
right.
was
I
a
mean,
perfect example of an app. Gosh, this looks great. Wow, Microsoft made it.
How the hell did PhotoSynth sneak out during Steve Ballmer's tenure in Microsoft? Guy
It's
gets
in the
no credit
labs,
for anything.
man.
Yeah, it was. I think it was one of those labs, like
was, yeah.
Windows Live Labs or Live Labs or one of those things. Yeah,
Sure.
kind of under the radar type thing. But then, okay, so say even then, Microsoft gets their hooks into you, right? What do they get out of it? Their big plan, like the master plan, is at some point they want to drive you to the products that they're going to use as subscription products, right? So even though these things are free, the hope is at some point you'll use the free things and then you'll say, oh, there's a version. I just want this one feature. So I'll pay them, $5 a month to unlock this one feature. Then you're in. Then you're captured.
What
You're
are we
in the
going to
net.
do to get you in this car today?
But that's also a time-honored for the last few years, freemium.
Freemium,
That's
yep.
how Evernote
Sure.
works. This is everybody knows this works.
Yep.
Right. Well, but Microsoft applying it to their most cherished software platform
I
is
know.
kind of amazing. When you
Yeah,
think
because
about
they
it.
have to give away
that's
something
new.
they used to charge
Yeah.
for, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's lots of precedent for that in the software world, too. I mean, Netscape did it, and those guys did great gangbusters. Anybody?
Adobe, right?
I don't know.
No, how about Adobe
But,
though? Like, putting
sure.
more things in the cloud, right? Some things free, but most not. Getting you hooked in.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's what they're doing now, more and more. I think we're going to hear more and more leaks about productivity apps. I have one other one I'm working on that I won't spill the beans on yet, but there's another
Office to us and to our grandparents, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Office to a new generation of people coming up in the world, maybe these apps or some other apps that we don't know about yet. It's going to be a different thing. And they're, they're consuming computing resources on little screens and that they carry in their pocket. It's a different world.
It's interesting because there are so many of them, but they're all little. And this is kind of going back to the original.
They're cute.
Nuclear computing model that
the Unix
Unix was behind. Lots of
one command does one thing.
Yeah, and I kind of like that model. Although then you get hundreds of apps on your device, and it gets a little out of control.
No, Leo. Then you get Olay on your device, and everything is screwed.
Yeah, because you need you
need some inter-process communication service.
Right.
Olay.
Object linking and embedding.
That's
those are the days.
Whatever happened to that?
Well, the thing she just talked about, OneClick is the logical extension of that. It's Olay applied to the operating environment of today, which is the internet. I want to copy and paste something on my PC and then walk out to the car or I should say copy on my PC, paste it into my phone and keep going. Hilarious. What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? 40 more hardware maker deals to bring Microsoft apps to Android devices.
Yeah. This is interesting.
This is like that I got with my Galaxy S6 where I got Skype, OneNote, and OneDrive built in.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. So Microsoft's
good.
striking more of these deals.
Makes sense. They're all tablets, though. That's a little interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So, they announced this week that they have 20 more. And of the 20, I think you probably recognize two names, LG and Sony.
Right.
The other ones are more regional OEMs. I had never heard of any of these. Cube in China, General Procurement in the United States, Grupo Nucleo in Argentina. So there are all these different tablet makers, some making just tablets very specifically for particular markets. But Microsoft says they have struck deals with them. They'll be putting a combination of Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, OneDrive, and Skype on these tablets in the near future. So now they have 31 of these partnerships. They already had who? Sony? No, Samsung. They had, right? Dell. Yep. So they have got a few big names mixed in with some of these regional names.
Samsung's name, though, right? I mean,
that is right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have to say, while I begrudge, bloatware on my phone,
Sure.
But having Skype, OneDrive, and OneNote was not. I didn't perceive that was value. I didn't perceive that as bloatware.
Yeah.
It's not like
it's no Candy Crush Saga.
Yeah, or the Verizon app, or
Candy. Sure.
Actually, if they'd come with Candy Crush Saga, I would have already been hooked.
You'd be okay with it.
I wouldn't mind that. Talking about freemium. There's a freemium success story.
Yep. Very true. But if you look at what's Microsoft doing, they're circling the wagons, right? We're talking about first they're bringing apps like Cortana to Android. At the same time, they're doing these kind of deals where they're doing bundling deals with Android tablet makers. Then they're even doing that deal we wrote about earlier this year with Cyanogen, where Microsoft's building custom versions of certain Microsoft apps that Cyanogen will include in their Android distribution. So Microsoft's trying to figure out how to kind of circle the wagons around Android. And, the way they're presenting it is we want to have our apps everywhere that you are, even if you're on Android. But really, I think they're just trying again to see which of these strategies is going to work and help them compete in this market where they're lagging way behind Android and iOS.
Strategy. Imagine that.
Strategy.
What a concept.
I know. Crazy.
Better than tragedy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Anything I should be looking for? I'm still using 10122. I see 10125 has been leaked.
Has it?
Has it or has it?
Yes, it has.
You're the experts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a major change from the public release, other than the fact that you get it in ISO form and do a clean install, which I really prefer.
Yeah.
So
Even on the beta that you would do a clean install each time, or?
I would. Yeah. I think that a lot of the I mean, it's obviously valuable to get feedback related to upgrades, but not from beta to beta upgrades. I mean,
Right.
I think a lot of the gunk you see, and I saw this on Windows Phone, by the way. I talked about the disastrous last build of Windows 10 for phone. You clean install that on the same device. It's actually not horrible. And that's very interesting to me. So I think on a well-used device, that could be problematic. But,
Right.
But anyway, yeah, this one has some interesting small things in it. There's Microsoft had talked about a universal back button that they were going to put on the taskbar, and it never kind of appeared. And they started adding back buttons inside of apps, and I thought, well, maybe they're not going to do this. But actually, it's in 10.125, and it only appears in tablet mode, where the icons clear out of the taskbar, and you just have just kind of the standard set of buttons. And one of them now is a back button, so it works like the back button on a Windows Phone. Just gives you a way to navigate by touch.
I actually like that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. You'll be delighted to discover that the start menu gets a hamburger. The start screen gets a hamburger menu.
It's about time.
Yeah, and that brings up kind of that all apps list and the the recently accessed apps and all that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. I also noticed, because I installed it in a VM, that when you install it in a low resolution device, you get one column of apps, of tiles, I should say, and it looks not exactly like, but a lot like Windows Phone, which I thought was kind of interesting. Updated icons. This is actually, it's such a small thing, but the truth is there's been a lot of uproar over the crazy icons that Microsoft has been testing in Windows 10. And so in this build, they've actually really toned them down. They were really bright and glary looking.
How funny.
And now they look more like the icons to me that are in Windows 8.
Do you think that was the intent all along, or this is in response to the uproar?
This is absolutely in response to complaints.
Funny.
People were freaking
Cracks me up.
And beyond that, it's just fit and finish stuff for the most part.
Getting close, you think, to the release?
Yeah, it's a lot of fit and finish, and that's the point. Windows Hello has actually been available in Windows 10 for a while. I use it on my ThinkPad X1.
Why do I always want to call it Windows Hello?
Hello.
Windows Hello. I don't know.
I hate that name.
Someday, Leo.
It's a terrible name. Hello, Windows.
It's got the little eyebrow things that kind of look around.
Hello.
If you scan your finger incorrectly, it looks at you like, what's going on here?
That's the new sign-on stuff.
Right.
It does biometrics.
So the fingerprint stuff's been around. I've been using it on at least 3 different builds. But I believe what's new, I think the thing people have noticed is there's a way it doesn't work if you don't have the correct hardware, so it doesn't work. But there's a way to set up face scanning so that you can get that going if you have the right hardware.
You have to have the Hello camera, which nobody does yet, right?
Right.
But this is what we talked about last week. Is it worth waiting for Windows 10 machines to use Windows 10? I mean, that's a minor.
I honestly don't think Windows Hello is what's going to put it over the top. Although I think that it, well, no, but but it will be a nicety, right? I think it'd be a convenience.
Somebody said it's Windows Hello Lady.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The companion app's not in this build, right?
No, it's not.
No.
That's Hello Lady. That's the companion app.
That is.
Not yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see that app just appear, that anyone on Insider Preview could get. Or maybe it appears in a build. I don't know. But it seems like the type of thing they could throw down at any time.
I'm going to read this.
And who doesn't want to throw down?
Throw down your hello.
Lady.
Yeah.
So,
pretty lady.
We're never going to get out of this loop, Mary Jo.
No, we're stuck. Once you go Jerry, you never come back. Windows App Studio Beta.
Yeah, so I don't know. Did you write about that? I'm sorry. I don't remember whose this is.
I did not.
Is this yours? Oh, so
it's all yours, Paul. Sorry.
Okay. Damn it. No, Microsoft is a really cool web-based app maker that I've talked about a lot and recommended in the past. And it supported Windows Phone apps originally. In fact, I think it was originally called something Windows Phone App Studio or whatever. It later supported Windows 8, 8.1 apps, whatever. And now in the latest version of it, it supports Windows 10 Universal Apps. And it has all the universal app controls you would expect. It does like auto scaling and auto layout for device orientation, screen size, and all that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. And then it has a bunch of features that are true of all apps that you might make. And I was interested to see, among them are 2 things that I think are kind of a big deal. One is you can use the Bing Maps control now in your own apps, which is really neat. But they also have the ability to query. They don't really call it the Xbox Music control, but whatever. I haven't looked at this yet, but what it says is you can now query the Xbox Music catalog. So if you, I think one of the types of apps that's kind of a big deal with this free and simple to use tool is you make an app about your favorite band. And what this would allow you to do is link to their albums, to their songs. And then when people click that link, that music would play in the music app on Windows 8, 8.1 or 10. And so that's new. And that's kind of an interesting thing. And so it's still a beta. This thing's been a beta for years. I don't know whenever it comes out of beta, but as of today, I guess if you go up there, you can now create Windows 10 apps with it, which I think is the big deal. And I believe it is for phone and PC.
Neat.
Those apps. Yeah.
That's probably what our buddy Dimitri Lialin is using for our new Twit app, I would guess.
Well, the other okay, so I suspect he's doing something a little more complex.
He's going to do XAML. So can you do XAML?
But you could start an app in this tool and then download it and put it into Visual Studio and go from there. So you can actually, like, for example, today, you can't submit apps to the Windows 10 App Store. So you would make these apps for yourself now just for testing purposes. But in the future, you could actually take that app, publish it to the store, and have it go out so that anyone could get it. Or you could bring it into Visual Studio and then add functionality that's just not possible to do with the free tool and using other languages, C#, whatever. So it's not a little toy toolkit. Like, you can actually make really professional apps and then go from there with them into Visual Studio.
This is actually really cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
Android has something like this. Google did a thing called App Inventor.
No, it doesn't. Stop.
No. This is actually more pro. This is more pro.
No.
But App Inventor, kids use it and stuff like that. But so I used App Inventor to create a little app for my tablet for the radio show to count down when I have to take a break and stuff like that. And it was really useful for that. It was very easy to do, and it just counts down, and you could put it on an Android device. Cool. I'd probably do the same thing if I had a Windows device. I'd probably do the same thing.
I see.
You might.
I might.
You might.
I see.
But well, okay. Look at it this way. I don't mind this old Nexus 7. It's a nice big screen. I don't mind dedicating it to a countdown timer because. Sure. Right? It's not doing anything else, and it sits.
Notice the app doesn't automatically orient as you flip it around.
Oh man, I've locked it. That it does.
I see.
Don't knock my app, man. It's my app, man. 32 application updates. It's just proving what you said.
See, yeah, exactly. You see what I'm saying? It really is amazing.
No, I guess it doesn't. You're right. But I don't care because. So that's App Inventor is much more. It looks like much more primitive than App Studio for Windows. This actually looks really cool.
They've kept this going for years now. It's really improved a lot.
I wasn't aware of it. Thank you for filling me in. And it's free.
Yep.
Appstudio.windows.com.
They really want you to make Windows 10 apps, Leo.
They do.
Would you just make a Windows 10 app?
How come Visual Studio ain't free, man?
Oh, no.
Well, it is free. I mean, you can get Visual Studio for free.
Basic edition or something, right?
Yeah.
Express.
No, it's not that
what's the
basic.
name?
It's a pretty impressive
it's enough.
version.
It's all you need.
If you look at Visual Studio Community, it is basically what Visual Studio Professional was.
Oh, minus the ability to ship apps or something, or
right. So I'm not really sure what the license restriction is.
You can make.
I think you as an individual could ship apps.
Oh,
yeah, individual developers can, but it's
no
not.
entity, commercial entity. All right, that's
Yeah,
good.
right. If you were working for a company, you would need to have purchased Visual Studio.
Cool.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep, I think so too.
I don't really know much about Microsoft products, Leo. I'm not sure why you're asking that question.
We need someone who does. Who?
Who could that be?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
so.
I believe you, Paul. Microsoft is taking its first steps towards merging Outlook.com with the Outlook web app. Anybody who's worked in business has used the Outlook web app. Yuck.
And is now seeking therapy for this.
Ick. So, but Outlook.com's awesome, and they have the sweep all these nice features. And
Yeah. So we knew that Microsoft has a single team that's working on Outlook.com, Outlook, and Exchange. There's one unified team now. It's been that way for a few months. And finally, they're starting to bring Outlook.com together more with Outlook. The way they're doing that is they're taking some of the features they've debuted in Outlook web app and they're bringing them to Outlook.com. Oh. So things like clutter, for cluttering your inbox.
That was in the web app first.
That was in the web app first.
See, I was all wrong.
Or for Outlook, for Outlook web app, like Office 365, right? It's clutter.
Yeah, Office 365.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Okay.
And then they're going to be bringing other new features to Outlook.com that are going to try to make it feel a little more like the Outlook web app, but they're still preserving it as a consumer app. So they're doing things like 13 new themes for this too. They're going to be bringing a whole ton of new features over the coming weeks to Outlook.com. Right now, just a very small number of people have it in test. I don't know who those people are. We're not among those people. Are you, Paul? I'm not. No. But they're going to be bringing this out. And at the same time, they dropped a line into this post that both Paul and I were puzzling over a little bit. I'm looking for the exact line. They said, we will be upgrading Outlook.com to a new Office 365-based infrastructure. And so I was like, oh, does that mean they're going to put Outlook.com on the servers that Office 365 runs on? No. Is Outlook.com going to share the backbone with Office 365? No.
Well,
it just means
over time, maybe. I took it to mean over time.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
They never said that because I asked them again. I'm like, what does that mean? And so they said, it just means that the two services are going to be using more of the underlying components in common so that will make it easier for Microsoft to update both platforms in a more rapid way. So, if you may have seen some stories or posts saying Microsoft's migrating Outlook.com to its Office 365 infrastructure. It's not really, at least not now. Your eyes are rolling up in your head, Paul.
My eyes? Well, I'm trying. It's hard. I hate thinking about this topic because
I know it's really hard
confusing.
To get it right.
The way but my understanding is, for the short term, what they're doing is consolidating the user experience so that they look similar, if not identical. They offer a similar feature set, right? So clutter and some of the other features they're bringing to Outlook.com, I think are good things. Yep. But that the goal over time is to consolidate the products, and we'll see where that takes us because, who knows, years down the road. Yep. But, I think you used the comparison of Skype and Skype for Business is a good one because they're never going to be exactly the same. But for the user, they should look and behave the same. Yep. I think that's the point, the overreaching point.
Right. So it's less of a jarring experience if you happen to use both. Because right now, if you do use both like I do, I use Outlook and I use Outlook.com. And when I go between the two, I'm always like, which one am I using right now? Yeah. Okay.
each one of them has stuff that's better than the other, right? Yeah. Which I think is the weird bit. Yeah. So hopefully they figure that out.
It's all coming together. Another strategy.
It's all coming together. God, I wish that were true.
I know.
It will all come together. This is like conjugating, It will all come together in the future. What is that? Future perfect
participle.
Yeah.
Ding dong. It will all.
Will it?
It's the subjunctive tense. That's all.
Future predictive tense.
Did you know? You're a writer. You must know all that stuff.
No, I don't. That's the problem. I don't know what they're. I have a problem remembering.
Does your editor ever say you used a dangling participle, Thurrott?
No.
Knock it
off.
off.
I will never. I would open hand slap that person. How dare you, sir?
How dare you split that infinitive?
There were no dangling participles.
It's because I have bad memories of the web app. That's what that's like Clear Channel makes me use that when I log into once a year when I log into my company account for the radio show. I have to use Office Web.
After the mad scramble for what's my password again?
You know what's really pisses me off? They change it every few months. So I never have the same.
You only access it once a year, so now you're out.
It's like, why am I making a password? I never know how to get in. I have to call you every time.
This is why when I used to do expenses at Penton, it was like the first time I did it, every single time I did it.
Corporations are not fun.
They're not designed for you.
If I ever get like that, slap me upside the head. I'm sure my staff will.
Right there. There's like someone we can't see, like raising their hand.
Leo,
Because
you made us use what?
there's a line of people like in that airplane movie, all waiting to smack you in a
Pipes
different
and
way.
chains. More OneNote apps.
Yeah. So this is just a short one. OneNote has become this open. It's become Evernote. Let's just call it Evernote. They've done the Evernote thing.
Yeah.
It's available for free to everybody.
Which is ironic.
Added
Evernote was
extensibility to
created
the platform.
to
People
compete
can
with
write apps.
OneNote. So
Yeah, there's all kinds of neat stuff there. And so there's a growing collection of OneNote apps, and they've added a few more. Well, they added 3 more. But the big one for me, and I have not tried this, you actually have to install a plugin, is there's a WordPress plugin for OneNote. So if you use WordPress, which I do on Thurrott.com,
me too.
you will get a OneNote button in the toolbar, meaning that you could actually write articles in OneNote.
Oh, neat.
And then publish them into a post and just add the couple, like the title and a few
That's
topics.
awesome.
Whatever. Yeah, and so that's really interesting. And it's interesting what happens when you open up a platform like this to extensibility. So you see these kinds of things.
I am.
Pretty cool.
That's really cool. We're going to Europe next month, and I really want a way to kind of travel blog. Something.
Sway.
Sway does. I mean, what Mary Jo did with Sway was great, but I'm just thinking, I don't know. I feel like there should be a way. I've looked.
Sway's not a bad way.
Yeah.
The sway is the way.
Sway's the way. Is it? Well, you did it. Yeah, you did it for your road trip. Is it easy?
Yes, and
It is really easy.
what you'll find yourself doing is really playing with it, because there are some neat presentation things you can do.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that's neat about it is you can just keep kind of piling it on. You can keep adding to it.
I looked at an app called Live Trekker that does a GPS track, and then anywhere you take pictures, it puts it on a map, and you can record audio or video, puts it on a map.
I added maps to mine. I added maps of each drive.
It will, okay.
Each stage drive and all that
Oh,
stuff.
that's right. You had maps. That's right.
But I think
You can have video too. You can have video this way. Yep.
Sure. I mean, I think the web-based approach is the best way, because that works on any device, including phones, and it's publicly accessible.
Here's the issue, though, is connectivity won't be ubiquitous. So I want something I could do on the phone, and then when I get near Wi-Fi, we'll upload it.
There's a Sway app for iPhone.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking for the right answer to that.
Yeah.
But I'd ideally like it to go to my blog. That's why I was interested in this OneNote WordPress.
You can embed Sways in your blog too.
You can. But it's hosted.
So you could do.
It's hosted.
I mean, you could. Where are you going? First of all, how many days is this?
It's 2 weeks in Germany, in Netherlands,
so you're
Germany,
going all
Hungary.
You're going to go to different locations.
Yeah, all Central Middle Europe. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could do. Are you doing a river thing, by the way, like a riverboat?
Yeah, riverboat.
Nice. So
I got I'm going to be a gambler. I'm going to play poker and win my fare back.
It's not the Mississippi in the 1800s. But you could do a different sway for each location, for example. And then you could just have that kind of collection of sways.
All right.
And each one
I'll
of them
look
could
into
be a
it.
host. It's a thought.
Sam in the chat room is reminding me Posters, which is gone now, but I used that when I was in China. I used a couple of things in China, because China you really have Posters let you email everything to your website. So because China you had no access to anything, but they couldn't cut off email. So I was emailing all my posts. I want to figure out a way to make it work. Anyway,
I would look at Sway.
I think I will.
I liked it.
I'm probably bringing an iPhone. I'm not sure what I'm bringing. Probably
You're
bringing.
going to have to bring one now. You're going to use Sway.
Well, and even though it's completely useless, I have to go with the Apple Watch because I have to figure out what it's like to travel with the Apple Watch.
I couldn't agree more. And it's 2015, so you're going to be on this boat on a river.
Yeah,
Danube River.
It's the Rhine, the Main, and the Danube.
Rhine. Wow. So I bet you have Wi-Fi access on this boat.
Yes.
So I think
not super great, but good enough. And of course my 4G will work.
I think it's going to be fine. I really don't think you're going to have a problem.
It's going to be fine, says Paul. Okay, Paul. I hope you're right.
I mean, you could use.
I demand that you use Sway.
I
think it would work. I think it would work for you.
And it is now, as you mentioned, in Office 365. That's
play
cool.
with it. Go up.
I will.
To
well, I am. I'm going to do a pre-trip.
Yeah, just pretend you're. Yeah, just put some photos.
Yeah.
You
See
have.
how it works.
Yeah.
Do a brick house sway.
Oh, I could do that.
And then you have to use the song "Brick House."
Well, see the brick house. That's why we call it the brick house. Somebody suggested before we moved, we were looking for names.
It was
for
either that or you dropped a bomb on me.
Yeah. Somebody said you should call it the Brick Twit House.
Oh, that would have been cute.
Wouldn't that? But I didn't, because I didn't want the
Yeah.
scatological implications. But we do
No.
call it the Twit Brick House because it's a lot of bricks.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I get
It's
it.
actually a wood frame structure.
They're a brick. Yeah.
But the Twit wood frame structure house didn't really didn't have that
No.
same punch.
Well, first you did the hay house, and then you moved towards
Yes,
the sticks.
the sticks.
You know, I mean, it's a logical progression.
And who could be the big bad wolf? Let me think. Salesforce, final thoughts. Salesforce plus Microsoft.
Yeah, the timing on this one was pretty crazy. A couple days before Memorial Day, or maybe even the day before, CNBC comes out with a report saying, hey, not only was Microsoft the mystery company that was bidding on Salesforce, but they bid $55 billion. A very precise number. But
Yep.
Salesforce wanted $70 billion.
Whoa, penny off. You got some, you know.
In other words, the delta was 2 Nokias.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money
Yeah,
for a
it is a
company that makes $5 billion a year.
CRM soft. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is there a multiple that you can always say, like, well, you know, this time sales equals your sale price? Obviously not for startups, because
Called
most
the
of them make
Ballmer
zero.
method. The
Yeah.
multiple is 17.
Is it? Really?
It
I'll
is
take
something
it.
ludicrous.
I'll take 17. That's a good number.
I mean, I could see the synergies to some extent. Like, you know, Microsoft is in CRM online. Salesforce is, you know, Microsoft would like to be a bigger player there. Maybe just take over Salesforce CRM and boom, you're a bigger player.
Does
They're both-
Microsoft have CRM?
Yeah, they do. They have Dynamics CRM and CRM Online, but they're a much smaller player in that
Right.
space than Salesforce. But 70 billion? And you have to have Mark Benioff as one of your managers?
Ooh.
Do you, though? I mean,
He wouldn't
That
last,
was part
right?
of the deal.
Oh, he'd be
I would
gone
say
in a
I'll
few
take
years.
70 billion, but you're out.
Right.
No.
There you go. That's a negotiation.
So, Mary
mean,
Jo, you would know a lot more about this than I do, but don't you think that Salesforce and Microsoft is actually a fairly natural commingling, and given the future of this company, makes plenty of sense? Granted, 70 billion is crazy, but
Yeah. Well, so you have to, I put my journalist hat on and I'm like, okay, who leaked this and why?
Good point.
Because somebody leaked this to CNBC, obviously,
Yeah.
and there was a reason they did it. The reason is probably they want to either get another company interested or they want to bring them back to the bargaining table.
No. You mean you're thinking Salesforce leaked it? But why
I
would
actually
they
think
leak
it's the other way
7?
around.
It has to be. Why would they leak
I
70
think
billion?
this is Microsoft made an incredibly big offer, and these jerks actually wanted more for some
And
reason.
Microsoft couldn't
That's
believe it
ludicrous. Yeah.
and said,
My guess is Microsoft probably was the leaker,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
maybe
that's
to
what-
bring them back to the table with a more realistic number.
like, put some
Maybe.
pressure on them from the board and the shareholders.
Yeah.
You asked for what?
Yeah.
You turned down
Right.
what?
Like a lot of those people would be saying, wait a minute, they were going to give us $55 billion. And you said no.
Yeah.
Seriously?
I should look it up. I wonder how much Mark has in the company.
Yeah.
How much of that
But
he
can
would
you
get.
see Mark reporting to Satya?
No.
You know, they've been cited in more places together, like at Build. Mark Benioff was right in the front row at Build.
Well, partner then. You don't have to buy
they're
them.
already partners, right?
Yeah.
But part of me says, wow, that would be, and the CNBC report said this as well, that would have been a very, very huge first big acquisition for Satya Nadella.
Right.
Like, wow, you better be really
But-
right about
but
that. That's more.
You're
that's more
placing
than
a
they were
stake
gonna
in
sell.
that cloud.
I know, but they were going to remember when Ballmer was going to buy Yahoo?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, but yeah, it's Yahoo. That's
And someone
hilarious.
talked him off the
mean-
ledge at the last minute.
Right. I think there were I mean, you have to think everyone at Microsoft who was trying to, especially the people who were charged with, show me how this is going to make sense. You know,
Yeah,
what
right.
parts of Yahoo going to what parts of Microsoft? And those people were looking at, like, what is this stuff? Are you kidding me? I mean, it made no sense at all.
Yeah. Not to mention, I know that Salesforce Cloud does not run on Azure. Okay, so I think it
Not
runs
yet,
on
it
your
doesn't.
own.
But what was the Yahoo price? Was it 40 billion? Or was it
45 billion.
45?
Yep. Remember
Okay, well,
at
I mean, that
time,
was
that seemed
several
crazy.
years ago. I mean,
It was. Yeah, it was like 2007. Yahoo. I remember because
if you take away
I was
Alibaba,
finishing my
Yahoo
book.
is. How big is Yahoo really? I mean, they're like two kids selling lemonade on the corner of the street on a hot day.
Yeah, it was so
basically. I mean,
awful. This was awful. I was finishing writing my book about Microsoft, and then I put the finishing touches on it and sent it in as the final. And literally a week later, Microsoft bid on Yahoo.
this is why you don't want to write a book with
This
me.
is why I don't want to write a book again.
Yeah, jeez, Mary Jo. This is why we write about the past. It's not going to change.
I know. That would have been easier, right? But it's so boring to write.
You don't write about the next Microsoft. You write about the old Microsoft. See,
that's what most people do. But I foolishly tried something else. Yeah.
The old.
Anyway,
Microsoft.
I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Salesforce and Microsoft. In some ways, I'd be very surprised. In some ways, I would not be surprised.
Right.
It fits in with their productivity mission, right?
Yep. Yeah,
and it would
in the
give
same
them
way
a
that
presence
Skype,
in the valley.
Right.
Yep.
Right. There you go. And integrates very nicely. Dynamics it goes away, and it becomes Microsoft Salesforce. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Or you just have multiple CRM suites. They have multiple ERP, so why not CRM? You could do that.
What's ERP?
Enterprise Resource Planning. All your financials, manufacturing, all your back end.
And CRM's customer. I know. Customer research.
Hey guys, this is what powers the company.
Oh, no, I know.
It's the billions.
Oh no, I'm sure it's really important, like air.
But there's BI, there's business intelligence, there's ERP. Yep. Is project management in ERP?
I think it's more.
Leo,
why
finance. You're leading her on? What are you doing?
I'm trying.
She's going to answer that question now.
It's more finance, right?
Yeah, more like financials and manufacturing, all of your back end stuff to run your business.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I got plenty of back end. I'm sorry. Moving on. Let's take a break in the back of the book. Speaking of the back end, coming up in just a bit. Paul and tips and beer and stuff. But first, a word from Prosper.com. I love Prosper.com. It's a great idea. If you, let's say, just as an example, and this happened to me when I was a younger fella. You run up the credit cards, right? It's so easy to charge stuff, buy stuff. And then, what you don't pay attention to is the fact that the interest on that stuff, if you're not paying it off every month, which I do now, the interest on it is like double digit. It could be like, it's huge. And you get to the point very quickly where you're paying nothing but interest. So along comes, you could borrow money, I guess, to pay it off from your mom or your brother. Not a good idea. These relationships are much more important than money. You go to Louis the Loan Shark down the street, but you like your kneecaps, right? Most people would go to a bank, but banks, personal loans, banks are not crazy about those. It's hard to get them. In comes Prosper, and this is something the internet has really done, and it's so great. It's a peer-to-peer lending marketplace, not a bank. Prosper brings people with money to lend together with people who want to borrow money. And it's just a great way to get a low fixed rate on a loan up to $35,000, pay off those credit cards. You can actually go to Prosper.com right now, Prosper.com/twit, and get your rate quote. You won't have to give them a whole bunch of stuff. It's a very simple form you fill out, and no, it won't affect your credit score. And you'll find out how much you could borrow, what interest rate. It's just that simple. You don't have to make a phone call or anything. Just go to Prosper.com/twit and then make the decision. But I tell you what, if you're paying 18-19% on credit cards, this is just a no-brainer. Or, there's lots of other things you might want to do. Fix up the house. Start a business. Prosper.com/twit for a limited time. Prosper will give Twit viewers a $50 Visa gift card with their low-interest loan. Up to 35,000 smackers in your account in as few as 5 days, plus a $50 Visa gift card. Now that's a deal I can live with. Prosper.com/twit. Give them a visit today, and we thank them so much for their support of the fabulous Windows Weekly program with Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com, Mary Jo Foley from AllAboutMicrosoft.com. We begin our back of the book with our tip of the week.
I have a few tips. I should also we don't have an Audible pick this week, but I want to mention that the book "Losing the Signal" came out this week. That's the book about
What's
BlackBerry.
That? Oh, yeah, we're going to interview the author. I just got the hardcover.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, is it?
I've not read the whole thing yet, but I'm about halfway through. I've been kind of burning through it. It's really, really good.
I gave it to Karsten. I said, hey, I really want to talk to this guy. Good.
I actually have newfound respect for BlackBerry as well, actually, as a result of this. Because, obviously they kind of...
they didn't do anything wrong that a lot of other companies,
really
including maybe somebody up in Redmond, didn't do, too.
I don't know what you mean by that. But the point is... no, this is a good book. It's available on Kindle, Audible, paper, whatever. Yeah. I recommend it. But and tied into that, spurred on by some emails I had gotten, I compiled a list of the industry books that I've bought on Kindle and Audible over the past, actually 2.5 years, since the beginning of 2013. So that's available on my site. Like Steve Jobs a biography, a book about Nadella, some of that stuff. So these are the ones that I've actually purchased, that I've read, and that I are recommended either because they're really good books or are just generally interesting for people who are into this kind of stuff. So check that out.
That's also, great. Thank you for doing that. You know what? I'm going to point people to that.
It's hard to do.
It is.
I actually meant originally to do my whole collection. And I got I got about 2 years into it.
Goodreads, man, just use Goodreads. You could use Goodreads and then share it with everybody.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's the Amazon thing, and I think they will import your Amazon history into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
it's too late now, Leo. I've gone down the road.
But I mean, that's Amazon, that's Audible, that's Kindle. I mean, that's a good chunk of. I'm sorry to say, of what I read is stuff from Amazon. So.
Sure. I'm actually right now rereading that Competing on Internet Time book that Netscape and Microsoft allowed these authors incredible access during the browser wars. It's almost overly detailed, but it is an amazing accounting of how they developed products at that time. That book it's almost too much. It's crazy how detailed it is. It's really good.
I've read about half of these, but there's the rest are, I agree with you on all of this.
Yeah, just listen to Masters of Doom recently again.
Masters of Doom, what a great book.
The Dogfight book about Google and Apple, I just listened to again.
One. Boy, I felt like I learned kind of a lot of what was going on behind the scenes in that one, of stuff we were covering.
Yeah,
but now
I love how recent it is, and it's a good one.
Good choices. That's a great list. That's on your website, Thurrott.com.
Yep. So last week I talked about, I'm doing a series of tips on Windows Phone. I wrote a bunch more of those. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I'm writing almost one a day, so you can check those out. And I also wrote a couple of tips about OneDrive. The reason I want to mention these is just because as we head forward into Windows 10, Windows 10 is not going to have the sophisticated OneDrive sync engine that we had in Windows 8.1. And Windows 8.1 stands alone. It's the only version of Windows that has this. It's the only version of anything that has it. The ability to browse your entire OneDrive through the shell, where you see placeholder files instead of the real files, so it doesn't take up all the space. And then you can selectively determine from the shell which parts of the collection you want to have synced offline. And so I started thinking through this. I wrote a couple of tips based on how you might overcome this. And that's true whether you're in Windows 7 or 8.0 or in the future in Windows 10. And so there are ways to see all of your OneDrive from the shell. One is to map OneDrive as a drive letter. And the other is just to use a third-party utility. And there are a variety of those. But they all have issues. I mean, the performance issues, reliability issues, whatever. But if the goal is to see everything from the shell, which it is for me, you're going to want to take a look at those two tips.
Good tips.
Then, software pick, I also have two. I just want to mention quickly that today Microsoft announced that Office Lens for Android had exited preview.
Oh.
So it's available in non-preview format. I don't believe they've actually updated it. I don't think there are any new features, but that's that awesome app. It's available on Windows Phone. It's available on iPhone and Android. That is basically a scanner for everything, and it will convert, whiteboard or receipts or business cards or whatever into text that you can use anywhere. Or it's just a fantastic, fantastic app. So, out of beta. The other one, and this is part of, I haven't written this one up, but this would be considered part of the Clean PC series I've been doing this year, is something called Unchecky. I don't actually think that anyone listening to this podcast needs it for their own computers. But you should install this on the computers of everyone you're doing service for all the time, friends and family.
Yep.
And what this thing does is it automatically unchecks the crapware choices that appear in typical setup programs for applications that you've downloaded for the internet. So if you download something like uTorrent or Java or whatever, it will actually automatically uncheck the boxes that are confusing because they're purposely designed to be confusing, so that you're not getting the crapware that is often
Look at
installed.
MicroTorrent. Oh my God, the crap you have to install.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh,
So
3 different crap things, including Conduit.
yeah. So I put this one, put
So
this one on
Unchecky
your
unchecks
mother's
all of
computer,
these
yeah,
automatically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a neat little app. It's free.
Really is great. Yeah. We've recommended that for a long time, I think, on the radio show, because it's just everybody should.
Yeah, cool.
Everybody
That's
who
good.
installs a lot and is, you say it's not for our audience, but
I was just thinking that. I should say
we
I
all go
installed
click,
it on
click,
my
click, click, click,
computer.
click, click, click.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I just did. I torrented that build. For example, so I decided to install uTorrent, and I just went through this, where you kind of no,
Right. You have to
this
read it
one's yes.
carefully.
This one's
It's not obvious.
Yeah,
Like the
it's not.
toolbar. Oh, maybe that's the Unchecky toolbar. No, that's Conduit. But
yeah,
that's not
really.
immediately obvious.
Right.
Mary Jo Foley has an enterprise pick of the week.
I do. My enterprise pick is SQL Server 2016.
Of course it is.
And the reason it's my pick today is Microsoft just released the first public preview of this database that's coming next year. Confusingly, this preview is called CTP2, which is Community Technology Preview 2, even though it's the first public preview.
Oh, Microsoft, don't ever change.
I know. And the reason, if you're curious, it's CTP2 is because there was a CTP1, but that was a private preview. This is a public preview available to anyone as of today. So SQL Server 2016 is the follow-on to SQL Server 2014, and it's just more of everything that you loved about SQL Server. It's more performant, has more encryption. It has a new technology that I am not totally sure how to explain, but it's called Stretch Database. And the way Microsoft describes that is it lets you dynamically stretch your warm and cold transactional data to Azure.
Oh, finally.
Did you seriously
I know.
just say that?
I did. And I cannot explain it any further than that. I guess StretchDB is a thing, and I'm sure I'll hear lots from people who understand what exactly that means. But just go with it. StretchDB is in there. Polybase is in there, which is a technology Microsoft has only had up till now in their parallel data warehouse that helps you manage both relational and non-relational technology. So there is a ton of stuff in this, including in this very first public preview. So if you're into databases, I would go kick the tires. You can download it. You can put it in a VM on Azure to try it out, and it's free. So get on it.
If you're into databases, and who isn't?
You're into databases.
Actually, for all the protestations, Mr. Thurrott did write the Delphi 3 Super Bible.
Yeah.
Of course. I would do it again, Leo.
It's kind of a database.
I listen. If the world had evolved into to be based on Object Pascal, we would all be better off.
Happier people.
Yep.
So would Nikolaus
Programmers would be happier.
Wirth. Codename pick of the week. Speaking of Nikolaus Wirth.
Another Switzerland-based codename this week. Basel, B-A-S-E-L, is the codename. And this is the codename for the second iteration of the Metro design language. So you know how Microsoft had Metro with Windows 8? It wasn't just a look and feel. It was a philosophy. It was pretty much a way of life. It was, right? Wasn't it kind of? The way they described it.
No, not kind of. It really was, yeah.
This is like the whole way we think about design, and it was inspired by subways and modern design and et cetera, et cetera. Well, they changed everything up with Windows 10, and there's a whole different design ethic with Windows 10. And people are calling it MDL 2.0 for Metro Design Language 2. But supposedly the code name of this thing, MDL 2, is Basel. I don't know what the final name is going to be or if and when we're going to hear a new replacement name.
Until this city in Switzerland sues Microsoft
I know.
And then
It's a code name.
We won't find out who it
Code
is,
name.
but somebody has apparently the rights to the name. And
But the
Yeah.
Swiss know design. I mean, not just the Swiss railway clocks,
Yes.
but Helvetica. That's, all of that. I mean, the Swiss.
Yeah. So we know the code name at least. So maybe soon we'll know the real name.
I think you probably can't copyright Basil. It's probably like
no,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
calling it New York or something, right?
I kid.
No, Microsoft-
I'm a kidder.
Do you guys remember when they got sued by the government? Not sued, but taken to task by the government of Fiji because they had the code name Fiji.
Hi, this is Carl. Carl
Really?
Sagan complained to Apple because they used Sagan as a code name for one of their
Well,
products.
that's his name. I can understand that, but Fiji?
How would you not want your name to
Well,
be the
that's
code
true.
name for an Apple product?
I know.
Actually-
What kind of a
Same thing happened with Ken Burns. Apple put they called
Ken
it
Burns
the Ken Burns effect without asking Ken Burns.
Oh, man.
is that true? They did.
Yeah. And he was I'm told he was miffed until they plied him with Macintoshes. And then he said, all right.
That's funny.
But he was
Forgot
pissed
about
because they didn't ask him. They just did it.
That is amazing.
But Apple did the same thing with that Swiss watch face. They
wouldn't
That's true.
I
they got
wouldn't be
sued over
mad.
that.
Would you, if somebody at Microsoft wants to code name something MJF, feel free.
Well, didn't they name the Foley effect after you?
That is
effect.
definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Michael Crichton story.
Next time you hear
Foley
footsteps, think Mary Jo Foley effect.
Yep.
Beer time, my favorite time.
This was kind of inspired by FIFA. Today's pick.
Jeez. As it would be.
I picked a beer from England, Beavertown Brewing's Bloody L.
Bloody hell.
Bloody L.
Ow.
It just sounded like it worked with the whole FIFA.
Oh, look at
shit.
that can.
Yeah. It's a blood orange IPA. And what's very interesting is, so this brewery is based in England, but they do a lot of American style beers. And this is a very American style IPA, except made with blood oranges to kind of take a little of the bitterness edge off of it. It's very good. Very
I love
nice.
blood oranges. I really
Me
do.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're red. I mean, that's what they're called, blood oranges.
are.
But they're
Yeah, this
very
beer is
sweet.
like-
They're a nice orange.
Yeah. It's very like nice, dark, orangey color beer. Very, very tasty. Good for a summer day like today here in New York.
My first wife, back in 1981, and I planted at our wedding day a blood orange tree. It died. And so did the marriage.
In a
you
rather
go.
symbolic move, it committed suicide.
I thought that was a nice. I think that was a nice thing to do, though. You know,
Sure.
unless the tree doesn't make it, that's not a good sign. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this exciting, thrilling, gripping edition of Windows Weekly. Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. That's really all you need to know if you want to keep up on what's going on with Microsoft. Of course, the other thing you want to know is that Windows Weekly is right here every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC on live.twit.tv. We'd love it if you watch live, but if you can't, on-demand audio and video always available. All of our shows are on the web at twit.tv, in this case, twit.tv/WW. Look for a new site. I think before the show next week, the new website will be up. So maybe you want to subscribe
Yeah.
on Xbox Music
By the
or
way.
the podcast app, just in case. That way you'll be sure to get the show. Well, the website's doing, all of our back end is going through the website now. So that the production, the production workflow all goes through the website. So that means if something goes wrong, there'll be no show.
Well, it seems like a good infrastructure.
What could possibly go wrong? No, it is. It's going to be great when it works. And, Patrick Delahanty, credit to Patrick, who is in, our team, who's writing we call it Elroy, is the encoder. He's rewriting the Elroy code to work with the new website. And once all the kinks are worked out, the editors will sit down in Drupal, do everything, press a button. Everything gets published to all the different places automatically. The website gets updated. The apps, too, will get updated because we have an API.
It sounds like you're describing Tomorrowland.
It is Tomorrowland.
Does.
And have you guys seen that?
No, but it's,
Yeah. I don't know if
what
it has
happens
a happy.
next, Father?
Yeah, I don't know if it has a happy ending.
You know,
Someday in the future, the web will publish all your shows. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.